All right, so welcome everyone. So today I am running this quick 1 hour workshop. It's called the Advisor Blueprint. And I'll take you through the slides. I'll explain who I am and what we're going to cover today. But first up, just like to thank everyone for coming along. Welcome. I know everyone's very busy. As I said, it's holiday season for a lot of you, so I really appreciate you joining us today. And life's just busy in general. Work's busy, business is busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time out to learn and hopefully progress new ideas and new strategies in your business as well. All right, so just very quickly, some brief background to myself. I'm a trained accountant, started life as an accountant, spent 15 years in different chartered accounting commercial roles, both here in Australia and in the UK. But for the last 20 years, I've been running my own business coaching and advisory business. And over that time, I've really just worked with SME clients, generally between 3 and 30 staff in their businesses. But I've got clients that have up to 100 staff, and I still run that business. So that's still a big part of what I do. And it helps me keep in touch with that whole advisory, coaching, consulting area. But what I did last year, so around about September last year, I launched Accountant to Advisor, and that's really designed to help accountants develop their advisory skills and implement advisory services into their businesses. As you all know, and the reason why you're here, things are changing. It hasn't just been suddenly, but over the years, there has been a shift to focus more on advisory services for our business clients. Compliance and tax is still important, but really to differentiate yourself, to I suppose protect yourself from changes and streamlining in those tax and compliance areas, and also just to provide extra value and really help your clients. Advisory is a big part of that and super important. Now, for those that have just joined us, if you can just open up your chat window, just say hi, let us know where you're located. We've got people from all around the world, and also let us know what the weather's like. Just always curious. Okay, so what my purpose is, so just more broadly, because I've transitioned from accounting roles into an advisory coaching role over the last 20 years. So I know I know the challenges that you can face. I started life, as I said, for 15 years working as an accountant. We think in a certain way. We're not really taught a lot of management skills, even people skills or sales skills. It is all about the numbers. And and so I've made that transition both in terms of my mindset, but also developing a lot of processes and models and approaches that I feel that's worked for me, and I feel would work really well for other accountants. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I really want to help upskill accountants. I've always felt that accountants should be and could be doing a lot more to help their clients. And it's you don't need a lot of additional skills or changes to your approach to really help your clients in their businesses, looking more forwards rather than looking backwards. So that's why I'm really doing what I'm doing with this whole accountant to advisor program. But today, what I want to do, specifically in this workshop, is really help you assess where you are with your advisory readiness. And that will help give you some ideas on what you have to work on to develop your skills and get ready. Give you a roadmap. So I'm going to share with you the 4-part model that I use with all of my accountant to advisor program members, and then also how you can implement that model over the next 4 to 6 months to roll out advisory services into your business, and then leave you hopefully with an action plan and next steps for you to take. Okay. Now, this workshop, so welcome Sonia from Cedar Rapids. It's a nice sounding name. Okay, so what we're going to cover today. Now, I really don't want this to be a sales presentation or workshop, but I am obviously promoting my program. So I want to get that out of the way. So what I want to do is just share with you details about my program. I'm not going to put it up on screen. I'm just going to share a link with you. So let me just grab that. Um, and I'll just get that out of the way. So because I really don't want to spend time, trying to sell you on this program or follow you up afterwards. I just thought I'd share with you this link for anyone that wants to have a look. Um, let's move some of these windows around. Share. All right, I'm going to pop this into the chat window. Okay. So you can have a look at that later, just so you've got it there and I can just get that out of the way. So this is really a link to this document. It just takes you through the program, explains the pricing, and just very quickly. So the price of the program is 150 a week. There's no upfront costs. There's no minimum terms. But what I'm doing for people who are attending today, not even people who've registered, but just people who are attending, because you've obviously taken the time out, I'm giving a special offer of $100 a week for this program. But I need to know by the end of Tuesday. Okay, but I'll leave that with you. And just so I get that out of the way and get on with the actual sharing and facilitating of this workshop. Okay, so that's out of the way. The other things I'm going to share with you, obviously, as I said, is go through this readiness assessment with you. Uh, then I'm going to share with you my advisor blueprint framework, how to implement that within the next 4 to 6 months. One of the tools that I use with all of my members and help them implement with their clients is the 7 P's of profit model. And that's a business growth model that's very simple for your clients to understand, and something that I want to share with you, so you can at least leave today with a really concrete tool that you can start using straight away. Okay, so let's keep going. And at any time, if you've got any questions, I'm going to monitor my chat. Just ask away, and happy to answer. All right. So first up, the workbook. Now, you should have received this by email, but if you didn't receive it, then that's fine. It's not that critical. I'll just share this with you. So this is really what I'm going to work through today. I won't be completing all of it, and you don't really need a printout, but if you do have it, then at least you can work along as we go. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's quickly take stock. And just to find out where you are all in your businesses, in your advisory journey. So I've got a couple of slides that I just want to work through with you, explain some concepts, but then get your feedback and find out specifically where you are, and maybe help you with some ideas to progress things. So first up, let's go back to my iPad here and just explain, I suppose, where the 4 stages of advisory in particular. So over here, number one is your totally compliance focused. Okay, so basically you don't do any advisory, you just do tax compliance work, which is perfectly fine. Second is you might be doing some ad hoc advisory. Okay, so you don't really have any set packages. You might just add that to your WIP as you incur hours related to advisory type work, analysis, basic stuff. Okay. 3 is where you've got regular advisory meetings, but it's unstructured. And what tends to happen, and this is the feedback from my members, is that clients tend to fall away. Okay, you start off well, you're having regular meetings, they could be monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, whatever it might be. Um, but you run out of things to say, you run out of things to discuss. Those conversations could even end up back into that tax compliance realm instead of looking forward and helping them with their business and understanding what's happening in their business. But because it's unstructured, it tends not to last. And then lastly, number four is where you have a systemized and valued advisory service. And this is what leads to profitable growth, both in terms of existing clients, but also being able to attract better clients who are, obviously geared towards growth and are happy to pay more for your services. All right, so very quick question. Out of those four areas, where do you feel you fit right now? Is it one, two, three, or four? Just pop that into your chat, or it could be somewhere in between a couple of those areas. So just to get an idea of where people might be right now. Warwick's 2.5, so in between two and three. Sonia's a one, which is fine. Yuvraj is two. Becky two and three. All right, excellent. Virgil a one. All right, so we've got quite a spread. And it's interesting, yeah, sometimes I run these and there's quite a few twos and threes. And here we've got quite a good spread. So, all right, no, it's good. It's good to know. All right, so that was the first thing I wanted to cover off. The second is really understanding what your experience has been with advisory or just with working with your clients in general. And so this very simple grid is understanding currently where you're at. So now, don't want to talk about the future on the right-hand side right now. It's more just focusing on what you're currently experiencing, what your frustrations are dealing with clients, but specifically around advisory, and really what you want, immediately in the next, say, 3 to 6 months, rather than the future, which is probably more geared towards the next 2 to 3 years. All right, so just open up your chat and just let me know. Just have a think. What are some current frustrations? What are some current issues you're facing? Because we can talk through a lot of that, a bit of those before we get into the model. Just want to get a feel for what you're experiencing and where you are. So just take a minute or so to have a think about that, pop into your chat, just some bullet points. It'd be great to hear any current frustrations, anything that you'd like to overcome, experiences that you've had that you might want to share and we can discuss quickly. And while we do that, I'll just summarize them here. Okay, so just conscious of space here. So we'll say systemized approach is what someone wants. Oops, my tech's not working. So systemized approach, a guide, I suppose, on how to get there, a guide to advisory. New growth. So these are the wants at the moment. But Becky's saying she's developing processes around that. Good. Yeah, but if anyone wants to share, because while you're doing that, I have a list from previously that other people have shared, which I'm happy to pop in here to flesh this out. But keen to hear first, what are some of the issues, frustrations that you've had? You may have tried to offer advisory services. What other people have said in the past is that they want to do it, they have tried to do it, but clients don't see the value, they don't want to pay for it. And you just want to understand if those are the types of issues you've had in the past. So while you're doing that, while you're sharing or thinking about it, I'll just share. Okay, so James has got here client perception of services you perform versus what service you actually provide, providing value while being remote and fractional. Okay. James, happy for you to unmute yourself if you want to just provide us a bit more insight into that. Only if you feel comfortable. Happy for you to unmute yourself and just talk through a bit of that, just so we better understand it. Hey, James.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, I'm driving, but yes, it's essentially you. Our company, we are a remote fractional CFO and accounting firm,
Yep.
and a lot of times you're doing a lot for these clients on a daily basis, and the allowing them to understand, what really is being done. A lot of times, the owner operators they don't understand the back office and what goes into it, and
Yep.
so you know showing the value without just being there and then having them look over your shoulder as well. So just the client perception of what's actually being performed.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, good. No, thanks for sharing that, James. Becky saying agree. Um, And thanks, James. I'll good. You've muted yourself. No, thanks for sharing that, James. So and you're right. It's especially when you're offering a more of an outsourced finance function role. Um, they just don't know what's involved. But at the same time, they probably have an idea of how much they would have to spend to get that sort of expertise if they did it themselves internally. But you're right. It's all about positioning, making sure the packages and the scope and what's included and all of that is clear up front. Um, but they don't appreciate how much work it takes just to get the numbers right, let alone them understanding the numbers, them seeing value in the numbers. So that's where I think and I don't know what level of reporting and analysis and support and meetings you have, James. Um, but doing that a little bit extra to um, give them insights, but also be a partner with them. Like if they can see you as a growth partner rather than just either a necessary evil for the tax office, um, or just a number cruncher. If they can see you as a growth partner, then whatever service, then they'll have a lot more trust in what you're doing, see a lot more value in the whole service. And so when I share with you the 7Ps model, I think that will be a good example of something you can introduce to them to help them see you as someone working towards helping them grow and achieve their long-term goals. No, thanks for sharing, James, and thanks for agreeing, Becky. So a few other things that I've had feedback about around um, advisory, but also just running an accounting or bookkeeping uh, business is, it's tedious work, potentially low margin work, underappreciated, which is similar to what James just shared. Um, Not sure how to price advisory. Um, Frustrations around marketing, not just marketing advisory, but marketing your firm and standing out from the crowd. Um, how to pitch and, just having a good sales process in general. Um, so there's some of the things that I've seen, and I'm not sure if people agree with those. I'm sure everyone's got their own experience of issues they're facing, challenges, and then these obviously then lead to future fears. If we don't fix these things, if we can't stand out, if we've got low margin business, if we're not appreciated, if we're not adding value, then the risk is that our business becomes less and less um, profitable, sustainable, enjoyable, all those things. Okay. All right, better move on because I really want to share with you the models and tools. So I'll just flick back to my pres. So we covered that. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to pop this into the chat because I didn't share this. It really was only for people who are attending today. James, I know you're in the car, but that's fine. You can go through this in your head while we go through it on screen. Let me just grab that and pop it in to the chat. Um, and I'll be bringing this up on screen as well. So I've just popped into the chat the advisor readiness assessment questionnaire. So if you can open that up, bring it up on screen anyway, but that's just for you to complete if you get a chance, if you get a chance to print it off. So, and I'll just pop it up and we'll run through it. Okay, so this is a very simple tool. It's really just a way for you to assess where you are in terms of advisory in particular, and rate yourself out of 5. So what I'll do is I just want to walk through these. Now, if you don't have a chance to print that off, then you can just rate yourself, just write a very quick, couple of words to signify this, and then rate yourself out of 5 on a piece of paper. So first one, that you understand the principles of success and how to develop the right mindset. So just rate yourself 1 to 5. 1 being lowest and 5 being highest. The second one, I'm a confident person and I feel comfortable meeting new people and building trust and rapport with them. Now, obviously, this isn't just for advisory, but this is just business success in general. But what I find is that by developing your confidence, your belief in yourself, a lot of these things are super helpful for when you are dealing with business owners, when you want to attract the right people into your business, whether that's for compliance and tax work or whether it's for advisory work. By developing your own mindset, beliefs, and confidence, it really goes a long way. So once again, rate yourself 1 to 5. The third one is I'm organized, productive, and I feel that I manage my time well, including staying on top of my emails. So once again, 1 to 5. And I'm not going to ask you to share these. This is just for yourself to reflect on later and work out what you want to work on. And I'll share some tools that I have around these in a minute. So that's just around personal skills. The next section is specifically around the advisory framework, whether or not you have one in your business and how you might be able to improve it. So the first question is, I currently offer business advisory services packaged in a structured way and with options for one-off, monthly or quarterly meetings. Okay, and I'll explain why I have one-off meetings in there. So once again, 1 to 5, 1 being lowest, 5 being the highest. Next is my advisory services include non-financial tools and support, such as goal setting, business planning, and team structuring. And I'll share why I cover those areas. Next, I have a clear business growth model that I use with my clients. As I alluded to before, I think that is super important to help people understand and position yourself and position your advisory services so that it's understandable and growth orientated. Next, I have tools and training to help my clients learn business skills and implement business improvements. So it's not just telling your clients, but it's actually giving them tools to help them implement. So things like, you might talk about time management with them, but actually having tools to give them to use to improve how they use their time is super important. Or training on team building, or giving them the right books to read. Now, I always tell my clients that, and my accounting members, an educated client is an easy client. So if you can give people the right books to read, the right videos to watch, tools that they can use to learn from and implement, it makes it so much easier. And obviously attracting the right people, the right clients that are keen to learn, makes them better clients as well. Okay, so that's some advisory areas. And then the last part, which is the second page, is more just general business skills and habits. And what I find is that, if you're doing things in your business, it becomes a lot easier to then share those with clients and advise them on how to implement those in their business. Okay, so I'm a very big believer on congruency. So if you can develop these skills yourself, it becomes a lot easier to share those with your clients. So the first one is I understand the core principles of small business financial analysis from a performance perspective, not just from a compliance and tax perspective. Okay, so once again, 1 to 5. Next, I have clear written goals and a written plan, which I review and update quarterly. So this is for your own business. Next, and I'll explain, I suppose, how important these are in a minute once we complete this questionnaire or this assessment. Next is I understand the core principles of marketing. I have hands-on practical experience, and I'm confident in discussing marketing concepts and strategies with my clients. Next, I understand the core principles of sales, and I'm effective at having sales conversations with my clients. Next one is I know the steps that I need to take to systemize my business. And the last one is I'm a good people manager and leader, and I know the core principles of managing and leading a committed, high-performing team. Okay, so some of those principles or some of those areas cover just more general business, and others are more personal development and also advisory. So and you don't need to be good at all of these. Obviously, you just need to work out, well, what are the priorities now? Okay, so if you've got some ones and twos in this list, I would focus on developing your personal skills. As I said, that really is key for success in general in business and just dealing with people. The advisory side, I'll take you through my model in a minute so you'll have a better idea of how to improve the advisory framework. On this last page, I would focus on the first two. And when you see my model, the 7Ps model, you'll see that marketing and sales and people management, they're all higher level areas within the business model. And I feel that sure, if you've got really good skills around those, then it makes it a lot easier to have those high level discussions with your clients, but it's not necessary. I think that just understanding the numbers and having a way to, if you're already doing goal setting and planning within your own business, and I'll share a tool with you that I use that might help you, then if you're doing that in your own business, it becomes so much easier to have those conversations with your clients. So definitely I'd focus on the first two of these business skills and habits areas, and the rest can probably wait and develop over time. Okay. So that's just a very quick assessment. And what I want you to do from that is really just prioritize, and you don't need to share this. This is just for yourself. If you do want to share, pop it into your chat. Then more than happy to have a look at those. But just for yourself, just have a look at that assessment tool and work out what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that you feel that you can focus on in the next 3 to 6 months, and hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of how to develop your skills in general. Okay. Any questions? Anyone want to share where they want to, what they've learned from that quick assessment and where they need to focus? Feel free to pop it into your chat. Otherwise, I'll move on. Okay, just conscious of time. I think we're doing pretty good, actually. All right, so next up, I want to share with you my advisor blueprint framework. Now, obviously, if you join the program, then you get to implement all of this. But really, I wanted to share it with you so you have a framework for yourself you can walk away with, think about the steps that you might need to implement and take in your business to develop advisory services. All right, so let me just take you through this, explain how it works. So there are 4 key pillars in my model, and the first part is obviously this top left-hand side. And this is where, and I call this mindset and model. So all of my 4 pillars are start with an M's, so mindset and model. This is where we understand where you really want to take your business, where advisory fits in, and just get clear on that, on that vision. There's tools that I use to help you improve your mindset and confidence as well. And I will flick over to my portal and just so you can understand a bit more, some more tangible um, tools and things to think about to help implement this into your business. The second is understanding your service portfolio. So it's actually creating a portfolio of advisory services. Now, I have a range of one-off services that I recommend my members implement, and also ongoing services. Okay, and I'll explain to you why in a minute. Um, Third area in this pillar is client conversation mastery, which is really the sales process. And what I find is that building confidence, sure, you can do things to develop your confidence and your mindset, but just by having a process in place, templates to use, things to share with your clients, that automatically creates confidence. Okay, so if you've got those things in place, then it becomes a lot easier to have those conversations. And lastly, um, it's around building your team, making sure your team, you can assess your team, who can help you support your advisory offering, but also who can take the load off you with the tax and compliance work, so you can offer more advisory focus and services to your clients. So there's a need there to really assess the team, how they're working, your own time management, and all of that. Okay, I might just flick over to um, my portal just to help explain a couple of these things. So this is the portal I use with all of my clients. And in here, there's a classroom where all of the training around these four areas sit. So if I look at the mindset and model area, so within each of these, there's training for building confidence and so on. There's all of this summaries, but there's also then tools to work through to help with what I cover in the training. But one thing I want to share with you is probably an example of the service portfolio. So once again, there's training, and then there are these business review packages. So these are documents that my client and my members take and just effectively replace this with their logo. And this is a simple template to use to offer one-off services to your clients together with pricing. Obviously, you can tweak this as needed, but just some simple pre-made tools. And I'm just showing you these so you have a bit of an idea of what I'm talking about when I go through the model. Um, and another one that might help. Um, so this is the team and time area. There's a tool I use to help assess your team, or for you to assess your team. And this is a very simple model. It's a way to map your team members into these four grids, looking at their past performance, looking at their potential, and then just help understanding what you might need to, who fits in where, who you can who you might need to develop their skills, who might not be performing and may need to be managed, either managed up or managed out. So just tools like that to get you to think about how to set your business up and put the foundations in place so you can um, more easily and more successfully implement advisory services or any new service or improvement in for that matter. Okay, I better move on. This second area I call mapping, and this is where we do just a one-off review and advisory session for a client. You don't need to start with regular monthly, quarterly meetings. What I find is that with existing clients who might see you as as an accountant that's doing their tax compliance work over many years, they may not automatically see you as an advisor. So I find that doing a one-off session with them will really help them understand. You'll give them a lot of insight into their business. You'll be able to share tools and strategies and frameworks to help them understand this additional service that you can provide. And at the end of it, so I'll just take you through this quickly. So I've got a strategic insights questionnaire that I send to that my members send to their clients. Um, so that's to really understand what's going on in the business, create those insights for both your clients and for yourself. Then there's obviously all of the financial analysis and modeling steps. Um, uh, I also encourage my members to look at their client's team structure, because what that does, and I've got a methodology for that, what that does, it helps you understand who's who in the business, where the gaps may be in terms of people wearing too many hats, or functions not being covered properly. And it also provides the business owner gets a really good understanding, because what I do with organizational mapping is not just map in the people in the business, but look at the functions in the business and then who's filling those roles. And that's when you see gaps, either gaps in functional areas or where one person has multiple hats and multiple and appears in multiple boxes, and they may be spread too thin. Okay, so that's a really good exercise to go through, to help a client understand their organization, for you to help understand the organization and who's in there, because then you'll have more insight into how to help them address some of these gaps. So that's the first step. And then this whole methodology you can also use to discuss with your client, okay, well, what does the business need to look like? What does the organizational structure, the team structure need to look like in, say, 2 or 3 years? And then who are the people that we can move into those roles? Who are people that we might need to recruit for those, as the business grows? So it really gives you a much better understanding of the business and where the business needs to head and how it needs to grow. Okay. Um, and then lastly, doing goal setting, setting KPIs with your clients. All right. So it's not just about the numbers, it's about these other two broader areas. Now, a lot of my members that they're not doing this with their clients. That's something they want to develop themselves with their own business first and then roll it out with their clients. But all of them are looking at these business goals. All right. So I'll just flick over again to show you some examples. So once again, if I go back to here, this mapping section, there's obviously all the training around that. It's probably a bit hard to show you this. There's actually a tool down here which might give you an idea. I actually use an online tool to map out my clients' organizational structure, but this gives you a bit of an idea. These are the core functional areas. And then it's about understanding who's filling these, what's the structure below this initial level. And then I've got some simple responsibilities that each of these areas would look at, and also some KPIs. Okay, so that's that organizational structure, just to help you understand what I'm talking about. And then the business goals area. And this is a key tool, and I'll come back to this again, but this is a one-page tool, one-page planning tool that I use with my members, with my own SME clients, but for my members to roll out with their clients. And it's very simple. It really captures the big picture up here, and then a 90-day plan, goals for the 90 days, who's responsible, and then the breakdown. And then this is a tool. Once you've done this up front, then what inevitably happens is the client will ask you, okay, this is great. How can you help me implement this? What support can you give me? And then that leads into regular meetings. And then those regular meetings don't just rely on you telling them what's happened with the numbers, but also you touch base on the goals that you agreed on. You set goals for the next coming month, based on this plan. Okay, so a very simple tool. It's doing all the work up front, mapping it out, and then using these simple tools to continue the relationship. Any questions? Can I ask, does anyone do any goal setting with their clients at the moment? So while you're popping that into your chat, I better keep moving on. I do want to cover the 7Ps model. So that's that first mapping area. The Third area is momentum, and that is where you have regular meetings with your clients. So we'll cover off the 7Ps in a minute, but that's a key part of this model, this part of the model. Then, as I've mentioned before, so Adrian said, yes, he does do goal setting, but with little accountability and follow-up. Yeah. So what tends to happen is when you first engage with a client, you obviously want to understand their business, understand where they want to take it. And so there's probably some goals that you discuss there, but then there's no regular way to connect with those goals, to review those goals, to have a plan. And I think by having that one-page plan, very simple, but mapping that out into the 3 months, then you've got something to follow. And I really encourage you to do it for your own business. Now, I've got a one-page plan for 20 years while I've been running my own business. I've had that discipline of having the one-page plan, updating it every 90 days, just stepping back, reflecting on my longer term goals, and then putting simple steps in place and priorities for the next 3 months. Okay. Yeah, so this momentum area is where you start helping them with regular meetings, but then helping them implement what you've discussed in this in the plan and that initial analysis. And I'll discuss the 7Ps in a minute, but this is where you give them the tools to help them implement those strategies. Working out how often you want to meet with them, having a simple process to follow as part of those meetings. For example, once again, if I go back to here, actually, I've got this. I think I cover it in my, I've covered an outline of how to run a 60-minute meeting, how to run a 90-minute meeting, depending on whether it's a monthly meeting or a quarterly goal setting and review meeting. That's in the training. I don't really have a slide that I can show you. But what I will show you is this toolkit. So back to this planning here, this plan. So this is a file that I give to my members that they then use to plan with their clients. But as part of that, there's this success roadmap. And so what this does is for each of the business model areas that I'm going to cover, I should probably do this after I explain the 7Ps model. There are tools that they can use with their clients to help them implement and improve their business in each of these areas, plus also training modules. So there's training on time management, on understanding the numbers, on marketing fundamentals. All of these things are in here under my business fundamentals training, which are training for your clients, okay, to help them develop their skills, their business understanding, okay? And then plus I have a list of books here. You can feel free to take a screenshot if you guys want to just take a screenshot of that. But these are some books here that I recommend for my members, my accounting members, to share with their SME clients. All right, so let's get into then quickly just building a success community or client community. Getting your clients together, getting them to meet each other really creates a lot of stickiness. That could be just getting together, just organizing a lunch where a few clients can come together and meet each other. It could be a larger networking lunch. It could be just going to someone else's training or seminar and inviting clients along. So I think any opportunity to connect clients just builds that stickiness and that relationship with you and your firm. All right, and lastly, mastery is just about continuing to develop your own skills. I probably don't need to go through that in too much detail, but it is about, sure, you get all these things in place, but then you really need a way to cement those, continue to develop your advisory skills, and measure the results as well, both for your business, but also for your clients. All right, so let me know if you've got any questions. Probably won't go through this in too much detail, but this is how these teal colored blocks, which come from this model, how this is implemented over the next 6 months. So first up, I have a one-on-one meeting with all of my new members. And then over the next 4 to 6 months, depending on the business. We implement all of this, and these are the tools that my members use to implement that in their business with their clients. Okay, so better keep going and cover off the 7Ps model because that's a key one. All right, so this model is a triangle model. Now I know we've already covered a lot, so we'll be finished in 10 minutes. So just bear with me, stand up, have a shake off, and just let's just power through. So this is a very simple model. There are 4 levels. The first level is about getting, and once again, this is a model that you would implement with your SME clients. So the first level is helping them get their profit and cash flow right and strong, and setting the foundations for the rest of the business. The second level is getting organized, and I'll explain what these are in a minute. The third is growth, and the fourth is freedom. Okay, so in this first level, the first 2Ps is pricing and performance. Okay, now it's probably not anything new to you. I always tell my clients that the profit is in the price. So it is about reviewing pricing, understanding how they're pricing, understanding how they're pricing for different services, understanding how that flows through to the profitability of the whole business, but also different services and different products. And pricing is an interesting area. Some people can just go ahead and increase price because they just haven't done it for so long and they're out of step with what other people are charging in the market, and they just haven't had the confidence to increase price. Others might need to do some more work around it. And that work could involve repositioning their business, improving their marketing, improving their branding, a whole range of things. Okay, so for some it's easy, for others it needs more thought, needs more needs more of a plan around increasing price and maybe attracting a different type of customer. The performance area is really you understanding how the business ticks, how the numbers fit together, what are the KPIs that are driving the results, what have the results done over the last few years. So it's doing all of that analysis, doing some benchmarking, budgeting, scenario planning, that type of thing. So that's the first level. The second, around getting organized, is around productivity and planning. Now, I've covered planning quite a bit already. Productivity is really just helping the business owner, helping the team just get more done by getting more organized, understanding time management principles, having regular simple meetings to plan production. So if I go back to this here, you'll see some strategies around the pricing and performance area, which probably is nothing new to you. And then there are some strategies here around productivity and planning. So I've got these time management tools that I use with my clients, simple things like checklists, effective delegation, using some task and time management software, having quarterly planning. Okay, so there's some simple things that they should be doing, including this one here, weekly planning. That could be job planning, production planning, and so on. All right, so that's those 2Ps. So that's 4 of the 7Ps. The fifth P is pipeline, and that's really sales and marketing. And what I find is that most accountants and bookkeepers can do everything, these 4Ps without much of an effort. You already have the skills. You've got the financial skills. You're normally pretty organized. And sure, you may not be doing a lot of this in your business yourself, but they're easy things for you to start adopting yourself and then sharing with your clients. Okay. These next 2 levels don't feel that you need to become an expert in marketing and sales. This is really a framework for your clients to think about, for you to understand where they are and what they need to work on next. But it doesn't mean that you need to be the one helping them with it. You're the strategic partner, the big picture person, and then you need to partner with others who are specialists in these areas. So a specialist, digital marketing person, strategic marketing person, branding person. So these are people that you can introduce to your clients that can help them with these areas, and it helps accelerate their results. All right. So pipeline is a core area, but it does help for you to understand some of the basics. So these are some of the things that I would look at in the pipeline area: sales process, sales training, making sure they're tracking their leads, following up properly. They've got a CRM, they've got a marketing plan, and so on. The next two areas, we've got people and process. And I think you've all heard or you all know that to build a great business, you need great people and great systems. And that's what these two areas cover. And this is where, and you can see how this builds up. There's no point growing and doing a lot of marketing if you're not sure you're making money or you're not positioned, you're not understanding the performance of the business, you're not pricing properly, you're not organized, you can't deliver on all of that new growth. Okay, so this really needs to build up. So people and processes, pretty straightforward. Once again, you don't need to be an expert in these areas, but you need to at least be able to introduce your clients to others that can help them. But you're the one steering the ship, I suppose, and helping them stay on track. And once again, I've got some tools here that I use and help my members implement with their SME clients. And these are tools that I explain. Some of them probably make sense, others won't. But at least it's one thing to have this framework, but it's about, well, how do we implement it? How do we help our clients implement it? Okay. Any questions there? I mean, there's all sorts of different business models. Now, I actually have one that's a 9-box model that I've used over 20 years with my SME clients. But for my accountant members, I've actually simplified that into something that I feel is far easier for business owners to understand and for my accounting and bookkeeping members to implement with their clients. Okay, so any questions there before I move on? Just let me know if that makes sense, or if you've got any questions. Happy to go into it a bit more detail. Would love a bit of feedback there. That would be great. All right. So for you in your business, so not for your clients, but just for you in your business, which of these areas or which couple of areas do you think you need to focus on in your own business? Okay. So feel free to pop that into your chat. Which of these P's, one or two of them that you think you need to focus on in your own business. Because the more you do this, the more you implement this model in your own business, the easier it becomes to implement it with your clients. I'll just give you a minute there or a few seconds. James is saying pricing and pipeline. Yep, great. Um, so, so James may be in that situation which I mentioned before. You want to step up and you want to increase pricing, but to do that, you probably need to focus on a bit of marketing, repositioning, branding, and just making sure that you can, people see the value. Okay, so quite a few people saying pipeline, which is good. Yeah, okay, good. For those that have said pipeline, do you know what you need to do and you just need to implement, or are you really still working out what you need to do? Okay, so for some, it could be networking. Okay, just reconnecting with existing relationships that may not have kept in touch with. You may know that networking's worked well for you in the past, so you just need to go out and do it again. So for some of you, that pipeline focus is you really already know what you should be doing. You just need to find the time to do it and just prioritize it. For others, you may need to work with a marketing person, generate some ideas, really understand what's going to work for you with your background, but also with the sorts of clients you want to attract. And they're things I don't cover necessarily in my program, but they're definitely conversations that we have. But it's not a core part of my program. All right, better move on. But okay, so your future. Now, I don't want to go through this in any detail really, but if I flick back over to my iPad, just very quickly, this is where you obviously are now, and we discussed this. But this is where obviously you want to be, somewhere over here. And what will happen is there's a couple of different lines and curves here. Over here, there's not a lot of gap between, just making changes and starting to improve things. The problem is if you wait longer, the longer you leave it, the harder it becomes, okay? Because others are doing things, others are getting ahead. The longer you leave it, the risk of losing clients or just not building those foundations. And we all know things are changing out there, so I encourage you to just come away from today, put some plans in place, start allocating some time. Whether you join my program or elect to or not, that's not the important part. The important part is you getting things out of your head onto paper, onto that sort of a plan, and just looking at that regularly and start making changes, start making improvements in your business. And remember, it doesn't have to be just all you. It could be others in the business that you involve. It could be consultants and contractors that can help you speed things up. Okay. All right. So, just very quickly again, as I said, you've got the details. I'll resend the link to the program info after this. I'll only be sending that out to people who've attended, together with obviously this offer. This says close of business Monday. It shouldn't. It should say Tuesday because Monday's a public holiday. It's obviously the Easter long weekend here in Australia, and I'm sure everywhere around the world, or that you are anyway. But if you do want to discuss the program, if you've got any questions about what I've sent you, and you want to take up that special offer, then let me know by the end of Tuesday. Okay. Otherwise, just very quickly, key takeouts for you. So either how that 7Ps model relates to your business, your own business, or anything else from that I've covered with the model, with the advisor assessment initially, that you feel you need to take away and start focusing on around that advisory piece. So just curious, have a think about that and pop it into your chat window. What are the key takeouts from this last hour? Oh, just gone over time. Warwick saying 7Ps was good. Great. So people like the 7Ps. So the whole idea of the 7Ps, as I said, is, and I'll share with you very quickly some examples of how that's used in the marketing and sales conversation with some of what I do with my members. I'll go back. This resource library has all of those tools in the one place. For example, in the proposal email, when we send a proposal for the one-off business review, it's included in there, okay, as an example. Same with having the advisory services. There's a client, there's a template that we use for the actual ongoing advisory service. And once again, it's in there. Okay, so the 7Ps, it really just helps position you that you've got a model, you've got something to work on, something tangible. Like people love seeing these visual models. So it really gives them something tangible to connect what you're saying with what they can see being implemented. All right, so that is all from me. Happy to stay on if anyone wants to stay on and ask any questions, discuss anything. Otherwise, thank you all for attending,